Hello and welcome to my first ever vlog. I'm here today celebrating the release of Romaniac Shorts, a digital anthology available at amazon.co.uk. It contains 22 short stories and flash fiction written by the 8 members of the Romaniacs, with the cover beautifully designed by Vanessa Savage. And it is Vanessa's set of questions that I will be answering today. First of all, thank you so much for the lovely compliment, Vanessa. I'm really pleased you enjoyed Truth or Dare. Yes, I am drawn to the darker side of fiction. The first book I recall leaving a huge impression was Bram Stoker's Dracula. There was a particular passage in there about the patient in the sanatorium who collected flies and spiders, and the rhythm of the paragraph inspired me to write a poem, which I then entered into the Hastings Poetry Festival, and it was highly commended. It was the first time I'd ever entered a competition. So that was really the first time I'd ever actually written anything that I felt had some sort of value to it. Today I'm a big fan of Jodie Picot. I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple of years ago. It was where I was up on stage howling like a wolf, but that's a whole new story. Have I ever written comedy, or would I ever write comedy? As far as I'm aware, I've not intentionally written comedy. I have a very dark, black, dry sense of humour, and it does come out in the novels, but it's not out and out laughing comedy. I've always suspected that if I turn my hand to erotica or erotic romance, that would end up as comedy. You've had competition success with short stories and flash fiction. Do you find short stories or novel-length fiction harder to write? I find short stories and flash fiction a lot easier to write. Truth or Dare was a little bit like giving birth 6 times over. Now in that time I was bringing up my young family and I was a full-time carer for my mum, so it wasn't 6 years, back to back. Follow Me, Follow You, I got down to about 18 months, and the third book that I'm working on I'm really hoping to have completed by September, which will be sort of somewhere between 8 to 9 months. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. What comes first for you, plot or character? What else is essential to have in place before you start writing? I start with an issue that interests me and go from there. That the characters will come next. This time round with book 3 I've started with the hero, which is the first time, because book 1 and 2 are very heroine based to start with. Then the plot kind of grows. I know where I start and I know where I need to get to, and a lot of the in-between stuff grows organically because I ask a lot of what ifs and I play around a lot with characters and maybe swapping their places and seeing how they would respond if they were in somebody else's shoes. In terms of having something in place beforehand, book 3, What Doesn't Kill You, is the one that I've planned the most, trying to put into practice things I've learned over the last few years, having been away on courses and gone to workshops and received some fabulous teaching and training. So I'm hoping this will make my life a lot easier this time round, and if I can adopt that method of working, it should speed me up. Do I write about real or fictional places? I write about both. I write about Dorset, which is the county I absolutely adore. It's so dramatic and beautiful, and you have all of this landscape and the sea that, there is no wonder that it inspired Hardy. Some places I write about are real and I give them their real names. Other places I reshape them, or I pick them up and move them and relocate them, and then I'll give them a fictional name. But I think if you live in the area you would probably recognise what it was. What am I working on now? I'm working on book 3, which is called What Doesn't Kill You, and the central issue is the sandwich generation. And I'm looking at the effect on all the generations, not just the person in the middle. The person in the middle would be somebody of a little bit younger maybe age to me, with children on one side and elderly parents who need looking after on the other. And I'm looking at what happens to all 3 of those generations and the pressures and conflicts that it can create. It's going to be probably my most personal book to date because I was in that situation, but it's not my story. But it will be written with a lot of empathy and understanding. And Vanessa asks me if there's a character I've written with whom I particularly identify. Kate in Truth or Dare is probably she probably has the most of me in her. She's quite particular. She's a little compulsive, obsessive. Yeah. And I do like, I'm not, but I do like things have a place and I do like them to go back. But I am talking stationery here, so I know you understand what I'm talking about. You know, if somebody uses that lovely purple pen, you need to know where it is. Or maybe that is just me. I shall move on to the next question. Vanessa has asked me to chat a little bit about the stories that I have chosen to put into Romaniac Shorts. There are 3 of my stories: Melt, Condition and Glass Birds. Melt is a short story of approximately 1,500 words. It was a story I wrote specifically to enter into a short story competition run by Chocolate, my publishers, although they weren't my publishers at the time. And that was the 3rd time I'd entered that competition, having successfully achieved runner-up on the 2 previous occasions. Interestingly, the first time I was with a story I wrote called Bittersweet, which at the end of this week is going to appear in the Romantic Novelists Association anthology called Truly Madly Deeply, so I'm chuffed to bits with that as well. Melt is a love story. It's pure and simple. It's a love story. There's nothing dark, there's nothing sinister. It was a little different to what I normally write, but I like it. You've got Alex Braun, the hero, and Carissima Sweet, the heroine, and she owns a chocolate cafe called the Chocolate Bar. Condition is a 500-word flash fiction piece, and so is Glass Birds. They're about 500. When I submitted them to the Flash 500, which is how they came about, they were exactly 500, but we've tweaked them a little for the anthology. They were both shortlisted, and that gave me the confidence to put them in the anthology. Condition is a little bit sinister, with a twist at the end, and Glass Bird is a very honest story, and that's why I liked it. Now on to the quick fire round. And Vanessa asks me, blonde or brunette? Brunette. Tall, dark and handsome. I have a 6'3" husband. That's enough said about that. Sea or snow? I love the sea. I love the sea. Not a huge fan of the snow. I find it very cold. I find it a little bit dangerous. I'm not overly steady on my feet sometimes. And I don't like it when it gets all brown and slushy. But the sea, you know, I live by the coast. It's always going to be the sea. It's huge. It's magnificent. It puts everything else into perspective. Lego or Barbie? I have a daughter and a son, so we have both. I used to sit down and watch a lot of the Barbie DVDs with my daughter when she was a lot younger and thoroughly enjoyed that. But I have constructed a few Lego buildings. I have made a fire engine and a fire station and possibly a police station, but I can't always pull the Lego pieces apart because I have rheumatoid arthritis and I haven't got the strength. But you end up with an original piece. Oh, Vanessa, gin and tonic or champagne? Gin and tonic. We don't really do champagne in this house. On our wedding night, we had a sip each. My husband and I had a sip each, and then ordered down for cheese toasties and strawberry milkshake. But the Romaniacs have introduced me to gin and tonic, and so in the last couple of months, I have been known to do a little chin-chinning with a G&T. I actually quite like the tonic water. I've drunk just a fair bit of tonic water on its own, but I've since discovered that you shouldn't drink too much of that. Of course, the option there is just to drink the gin. Anyway, last question, long or short? You see, when I first read this question, I thought there are so many ways I could answer this. And there still are, so I'm going to stick with short and leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Vanessa, for the great questions. I really hope you enjoy Romaniac Shorts. So all the proceeds will be going to Dyslexia Action and the Romantic Novelists Association to give something back to that writing community.